Hello and welcome to this episode of the Business Spotlight series. I'm your host, Sam Bardsley, and today I'm with Steve from Salestrong. Steve, do you want to just give us a little bit of an introduction? Tell me a bit about you and the business and, how that started.
Yeah, sure, Sam. So I'm the founding partner of a company called Salestrong. We're a sales training, coaching and consulting business. I set up the business actually 10 years ago. This is our 10th anniversary, and I've lost count, but probably coached or trained well over 20,000 people all over the world, in some of the world's biggest and some of the world's smallest companies.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So how long did you say this? Your 10-year anniversary?
So our 10-year anniversary is Salestrong, yes.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, it must feel good to get to that milestone, eh?
It feels good. Yeah, I'm not getting any younger. So, I'm sure we'll have another 10, 20 years, maybe.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. So I'm just going to start off with a little bit of an interesting question around your personal life, demands around running the business. Obviously, we all know running companies is tough, and balancing that work-life balance is hard for some people. So, how do you say and how do you balance that for yourself?
It's a good question. In terms of where my time is spent, I'm either working from home, which is where our office is now post-COVID, or I'm out with clients. And as I said before, I can be traveling all over the world, staying in hotels away from the family. So I think the important thing for me is that when I'm here, when I'm at home, that I can actually invest time and energy with the family. And it's easier to do some of those personal things, get a bit of training in. When you're away, it's a little bit more challenging. But what I've found is just try and build some time into your day, even when you're away, to at least reconnect with the family. And also, if you can get up a bit earlier and do something in the gym or go for a run, or if you can come back after a day's work with the client and do something like that, that all helps. It helps make it a little bit more manageable.
I was about to say, what kind of exercise do you fit into that style? Obviously, I know that you're doing an Ironman this weekend, which is fantastic. We always say here, we always encourage everyone in the team to make sure they do at least 20 minutes a day exercise. I think it massively does help that kind of mindset, that clear head.
Yeah, look, anything you can do is going to help. I'll always try and pick a hotel where there's a gym if I can when I'm traveling. I just find it's a bit easier if it's easier. So if you don't have to work too hard to get that exercise in. Probably my favorite thing is a run. Whether that's 20 minutes, whether that's 30 minutes or a little bit longer. Not that I'm a great runner, but I find it's probably the best for clearing my head for either the day ahead or the day that's just been. So I'll try and squeeze a run in before I have the beer at the end of the day.
Well, it's got to be done. Yeah, we have a rule here. We have the beer taps turn on at 3 p.m. every day. So
that's quite early.
It does. We only have a beer at 3 p.m. on a Friday if it's been a good week. But yeah, definitely can be a little bit dangerous. So I'm sure you've learned a lot along the way. And based on your past experiences, maybe prior to Salestrong as well, if you were to be, starting a new company now, maybe let's say it's even a completely different industry, what would be some of the first things that you would look to grow it, maybe do differently now, if looking back at all that experience that you've gained over this time?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is find something that really ticks three boxes or three circles for you. The first one is it going to drive the kind of money that you want? The money that you want to generate for yourself personally as an entrepreneur or for the business. The second thing is, are you going to enjoy doing it? Because you're a long time at it and you want to do things really that you get some enjoyment out of it. And the third thing is, what can you be really good at? And if you can tick all of those three things, I think you've got something that doesn't feel like a job, that feels like something you're passionate about, that feels like something you enjoy doing. So I think as an entrepreneur, that's been important for me. The second thing is you really need to know how to make money. You need to understand the economic engine of the business that you're choosing to create, and almost be really ruthless with your time. I know when I set up the business, it's easy to get distracted by lots of interesting different things that you can be involved in as an entrepreneur. But some of those distractions, A, you may not be great at those things yourself anyway, so get someone who's better at it. And B, if it takes you away from making money, certainly in the early days of the business won't last.
No.
So for me, that's probably my biggest learn is stop being distracted by things that are interesting but don't generate money, and really focus your time and energy on bringing people in who can do those things, and then allow you to focus on where the money is to be made.
Yeah, I think it's such a common thing nowadays, especially, I myself, I started a couple of companies back when I was very young, 18, 19. And, it's very easy to get carried away with the fluffy stuff, the visuals, what people think of me. And you don't really think about the most important thing, which is, you need to be on the phone. You need to be getting sales, because that's, at the end of the day, you can't do anything without cash. And I think you see it a lot nowadays. Still, there are some people that build more of a brand before they've actually even got the clients for the brand. So a dangerous game to play, I guess. Yeah.
And look, those things are important,
They are, yeah.
But it's what's the most important. The most important thing is to bring some money in to allow you to invest and grow the business in that way. And it never goes away. Right? It's always, as an entrepreneur of a small and medium-sized business, I'm always thinking, okay, so where's the money coming from?
Yeah.
And of course, entrepreneurs, I think, look, there have always been many, many opportunities, but maybe today there's even more opportunities. The barrier to entry in some businesses is really low. As long as you can set up a website and you've got something that people want, you can access, tens, hundreds or thousands of potential customers.
Yeah. Wild.
I would say on the other side, though, that's just provoked a thought, is in some ways it's quite hard to get through the noise and, talk to people.
It is. Yeah, I think, that's one of the reasons why we do what we do, in a sense of, like, we understand just how important it is to have conversations. You need to be having conversations every day with your target market. And if you can do that, you will get through to people. You will, do a lot better, I believe. People can do networking, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But, meaningful conversations with your target market is the most important thing. And if you're doing that several times a day, then my God, you're going to fly. So tell me a little bit about, the idea of Salestrong. How did that come to you? What was those early ideas and days like for you?
Well, Salestrong evolved out of another business, which I set up in 2009. And that company was called Mindstrong. And what I was doing with Mindstrong is I was primarily focused on three things. I was working with leaders to help them develop. I was building high performance teams, and I was offering personal effectiveness, either from a coaching or a training perspective. And that business was successful. And, where it evolved from was my own experience in the training industry. But prior to that, being a leader and a sales leader, I got to a point with Mindstrong where I just felt that, based on my background, which had primarily been in sales and marketing roles, that I was more naturally suited to working with sales leaders and sales teams. And that's when the idea of Salestrong was born. Really evolved out of Mindstrong. We kept many of the same philosophies, a coaching approach to learning and development, building high performing sales teams, and also, personal sales effectiveness, with a key difference that we really focused on our target market then being sales teams. And probably today, 80 to 90% of our work is with sales teams. We do still work with teams outside of sales, but primarily we focus in that space.
Okay.
But maybe going back to running as a great way of clearing your mind, the idea for the first business came when I was out for a run. I was sort of running along going, I want to have a business. It took me until I was 35 years old to understand my direction of travel.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say it was an epiphany, but it was certainly a creeping realization of where I could be good, where I thought I'd be interested in focusing my time, what might make some money. And the whole idea of Mindstrong was born on a run. Okay, it popped into my head, and I thought, okay, well, I better set up a website.
All
I was
right.
still working for someone else at the time,
Wow.
but I was already starting to think about, what happens when I leave this position, and do I still want to go through the corporate world, or do I want to try something on my own? So that
Wow.
was some of the starting point for the business.
An entrepreneurial seizure. That's pretty cool, and a good place to have one. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. So look, we owe you a bit of a congratulations. We know it's your 10-year anniversary for Salestrong, which is super exciting. I want to know, what are some of the key highlights for you over the last 10 years? What are some of those most memorable moments? Maybe negative, maybe positive. Give me some of them.
I mean, the highlights for me are really the large, interesting projects that we've been able to work with. We're lucky that we've been able to punch above our weight. We're a small business. We're in a extraordinarily competitive market space. And to work with some of the clients that we've been able to work with has really been, A, they're interesting projects, B, they're financially lucrative. So, that's always helpful. And C, I've truly enjoyed working with those teams, seeing the difference that we've managed to make for them in their organizations. And that's always I got into this business because I had a real passion for learning and development, for helping people to develop.
Yeah.
I went and did a master's in coaching and mentoring practice. So,
Oh, right.
That's all about how can you help people,
Yeah.
to achieve the goals that they want to achieve. So the highlights are all around the people I've met. Some of those people that we've worked with multiple times, who clearly remembered the job that we did with them, in the first instance, and come back for more, which is always positive. So yes, it's a long way of saying it's all about the companies and people that I've worked with, the experiences I've had with them. I've probably traveled to parts of the world that I never possibly would have had the opportunity to go and see and visit. And,
Wow.
many of those places stick in my mind as well.
Wow. And do you have some of the core team that were there from the start still with you today?
Yes, we've always been a small team. We're still a small team, but they tend to have stuck around. One is my wife, so she hasn't got much choice.
I always support it. My mother also works with my father. I think it's great. Good working team. So
Indeed.
great.
Although I think we are definitely a partnership. We're both directors in the business, but I do think sometimes I'm working for her, and it's less of a partnership.
I bet. Yeah. So look, moving on, a little bit more of an educational question. We like to always talk about educational books here. We always encourage people to, you should be reading educational business books if you are a business owner. One a month, one every 2 weeks if you can, as many as you can, all the time. We understand that it's important to educate each other as well. So tell me a little bit about your most influential book that you've kind of read for you. Doesn't necessarily have to be business orientated. There was another book that you read that was just key for you. But yeah, just tell me about, one of those.
Can I have two?
Yes.
Would that be okay? Look, just because of my passion and interest around sales, and my belief that every single entrepreneur needs to have an understanding how to sell effectively. My favorite sales book, the one that had the biggest impact on me, was called Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play, by a guy called Arn Kelser. It's a book that he wrote in the late 1990s. So it's not the newest book off the shelf. I just think the approach and attitude that he writes about, with a core philosophy that it's about helping your client succeed, as opposed to, selling your own product or service and being fixated on your own success, really resonated with me as an approach. So from a sales perspective, I would say for entrepreneurs, go and look at that one. I mean, there are many other great books as well.
For sure.
And then on the other side, I am biased. I have a prejudice towards coaching. And, I haven't come across anything that allows you to help people grow and develop and improve their performance that's as good as really effective coaching. So I think if you're a leader of other people in an organization, then go and have a look at a book called Coaching for Performance, which is by a guy called Sir John Whitmore, who is kind of one of the founding fathers of modern organizational coaching. And there's some really great stuff in there that would help people. Certainly helped me, as did the Mahan Kauser sales book as well.
Awesome. Okay. And so do you yourself, have you had a coach at some point, or maybe someone that's kind of been a mentorship or in that sense?
Yeah, I've had mentors through my early career, particularly when I was in the corporate setting. So my background was in the car industry. I worked for Jaguar,
Oh,
Vauxhall
wow.
Motors, BMW, and in two
Cool.
of those businesses, I had two. I had mentors. Sometimes the mentor was a manager. Other times it was outside of that hierarchical line of sight. And I learned something off all of them, particularly as a younger person. And then latterly, when I was going through learning how to be a more effective coach, I had a coach myself during that period of time. Um, I do believe that there's real value in having, a mentor or a coach to support
Yeah.
you. And sometimes I do query the fact that I don't really currently have a formal mentor or coach in place right now. Um, and a question a friend of mine did once ask me, he said, "Who coaches the coach?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
It,
actually there is power in having access to that.
It is, and if you look at every professional sports player, anyone that's kind of ever made it, all the top sports people, they all had coaches, you know?
Yeah.
So even if you talk to some of the top business people of the world, they've all got a mentor or like a coach, that helps them. And I'm linked to many different business coaches, and all the best ones still have a coach that is their coach, because sometimes
Yeah.
it's hard to see past what you think about about yourself and your business, and you do need that kind of third party POV. Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. I'm lucky in my relationships that I've built over the last several years that I have some people that whether it's an informal chat over a pint or whether it's something a little bit more structured that I can tap into,
Yeah.
and we probably support each other, in a mutual fashion.
Yeah.
One of the challenges that gets highlighted now is men and their mental health. Who do you talk to? Because we're
Yeah.
not always great at talking around those issues. And so if you've got some trusted people where you feel, even if it's on a bike ride, where you feel that you can open up a little bit more, I think that's useful
Yeah.
for people as well.
Absolutely.
Being an entrepreneur can actually, and being a leader can be very lonely at times.
It can.
There's a weight of responsibility that you feel.
Yeah. Surround yourself with people that are like-minded, and yeah, loneliness is a problem, and yeah, people need to talk to people. So absolutely.
No.
Moving kind of back to Salestrong, the direction, the vision. I know, like you said, you hope that it can be running for the next 10, 20 years, maybe 50 years. What is next for you, kind of short term or maybe long term?
It's a really interesting question. I mean, we were blessed and we were cursed by COVID.
Right.
And the reason why I say that is that, I think it was challenging for a lot of businesses, and we were no different. Our business model relied on getting people together in a hotel room or an office meeting room. And we had to pivot pretty quickly to, survive and then thrive to a point through COVID where we switched everything to online delivery.
Right.
I think there was a feeling when we came out of COVID that maybe that was the future.
Yeah.
That actually let's become really productive and not travel, not go to the cost and the expense of sending people across the country or around the world. So I do think it's a component part, but it's a smaller component part of what's next for us. I think what people have realized is that there is some value to it, but you cannot yet replace the value of getting people in the same space.
No.
The dynamic and the relationship that is created is just significantly better.
Yeah.
And our online relationships tend to be a bit more transactional, but I do know they are here to stay. So what I'm considering is what is next. I think what is next is that we've had to adapt already, is that we make our training, coaching, consulting much more experiential.
Yeah.
You need to give people an experience that really embeds the learning, that is beyond a kind of chalk and talk approach. And so we're designing our programs to make them stand out in the memory. Why would, we want people to walk away having been tested and challenged, but with a smile on their face, that they've had a great time as well. So I think that's still an important part. The other piece that I'm looking at, and I am looking from a non-expert position is what happens with artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Because that is, sorry?
Big topic at the moment, I was saying.
Yeah, that is starting to have an impact in the learning and development space.
Yeah.
We can already see it as supportive towards learning. If you want to find something out, Google it, right? Or put it in AI and you're going to get a response.
Yes.
So I think, how do we use it in a way that is supportive of, our learners' development? But it doesn't become, at the moment, it's still, I still think it's a little clunky and it's a little transactional. And maybe the key in the future for us is, how can we help people learn in the flow of work? So people want information at the time that they want it. Yes. It could be that they want to, they're about to have a big sales meeting and they just want to refresh for 20 minutes on, some core topics that are going to help them in it. So how can we provide them with that access to that information that goes beyond what you could just Google? So I think they're interesting areas for us to explore. We've already worked a lot with coach actors to try and help people apply their skills in realistic customer simulated environments.
Right. Okay. That's
feels cool. Like you're talking to a customer as opposed
to emulation.
Yeah. As opposed to the concept or the theory of how to sell. So yeah, we're always on the lookout for good new ideas in there. I don't think for us it's something like e-learning. I just think there's plenty of practitioners. If you want to go and just buy an e-learning course, then there's plenty out there. I can't see us making a difference in that space. So absolutely, I think for us it's about, how do we continue to grow and evolve face-to-face experience supported by technology that exactly enjoy and learn from.
I think it's incredibly exciting to see what's going to happen next. The amount of amazing programs that I've seen coming out online to help with business startups, kind of development, technology is developing. We have implemented several pieces of technology in the last year through using artificial intelligence. And it just gets me very excited. And I think it's going to be great down the line. I don't think it's going to, there's a lot of negativity around it occasionally that you read about. But I think, people just need to utilize it the best way they can to improve their service or product, I guess. But absolutely. Look, I'm going to wrap this up with one of my favorite questions. And this question is key because a lot of our viewer base is the kind of maybe the younger business owners. So what kind of advice would you give to a young entrepreneur today? After your time being an entrepreneur over the years, what is some key advice that you would say to them to help them maybe get on the right path?
Yeah, I think the first thing is really stress test your business idea. It's easy to get sucked up in your own enthusiasm. So stress test it, really understand the market that you're looking to get into, understand if you can be disruptive in that space. You don't always have to be disruptive. You can carve out a niche in a very busy, crowded space, but if you are, just check that disruption is actually something that's going to resonate with people. Yeah. Ask your friends, colleagues, people who are willing to be critical of you, who don't just say, yes, that's an amazing idea and you should really do that. So stress test your idea to almost to destruction. The second one then is just get on and do it, right? There is power in making a decision and doing something. And in that doing of something, you'll soon find out whether it's going to work for you or not, and whether you need to pivot into changing the business model or doing something entirely. And the third one we've spoken about already which is make sure it's something you're going to enjoy doing. Yeah. Make sure you're going to be really good at it, and make sure it makes you the money that you want to make.
Exactly. You have to be passionate nowadays. You need to be obsessed by the thing that you're doing. And if you're not obsessed, then, find a way to be obsessed with what you're doing. The best people that have built companies are the ones that they live and breathe their service and what they do. So yeah, super exciting. Well, look, Steve, thank you so much for coming on. It's been really great to find out a bit more about you. And absolutely some great learnings, to listen to some of what your favorite books were and the history and everything. So good luck. Happy 10-year anniversary. And yeah, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks, Sam. It's been a real pleasure.